predicate things, there's three types of predication. Some people will choose two subtypes for equivocal predication, but most people are going to say, especially in the Thomistic school, we're going to say there's three types, right? Univocal predication, analogical predication, and equivocal predication. What does this mean? So first of all, predication is just ascribing a quality to a thing, right? So what's univocal predication? Univocal predication is where I just mean the same thing in the exact same sense. Thomist's shirt is black, Thomist's face mask is black. I'm using the term black univocally because it means the same thing here. Now, an equivocal predication is when I mean something in completely different senses. For example, when I say the bat flies, like, you know, bats that fly in caves and stuff, the creature, and also the baseball bat swings, right? Or the dog barks and the tree has bark, right? The terms there are being used completely different. They're not the same. They just have the same name, right? In order for an equivocal predication to take place, we just need the same name, but not the same meaning, right? And the problem is that there is no same meaning here, right? So this is going to be an equivocal predication. And analogical predication is something in which it's not exactly the same, but it's not exactly dissimilar. For example, if I say, George is a good man, and the wine is good, there's different reasons as to why we're saying good. George might be a good man in virtue of his character, and the wine may be good in virtue of its taste. But we still mean good in a similar sense. So there's a certain likeness here. And the analogical of being, the analogia of being, right? So hard to pronounce. But the analogia of being is going to be necessary for us to make accurate predications, especially of God, right? Because if God is univocal with our predications we make of him, so like when we say God is merciful, and we say we are merciful, then God is going to share a genus. He's going to have a genus, right, in which we could share in, which is going to be problematic. It's metaphysically impossible. And then if we say the predications we make of God are equivocal, like what I'm going to accuse Jake of doing in a second, right, then we can't say anything about God and his predicates. And the problem is, right, is that if you can't say anything about God and his predicates, you can't know anything about God, right? And the way in which us Thomists, or I would assume J. Dyer or someone else would probably take this predication as well, is we're just going to say we predicate things of God analogically, right? So there is some likeness between God and his creation and his created effects. He's left a likeness in the created effects. However, God isn't completely like those created effects, right? It's not the same sense, in a univocal sense. So we can accurately say that God is merciful, and we can understand that. We can say God is all powerful, and we can understand these things, right? We can know the definitions of these things, right? But for Jake, he says that God is absolutely unlike anything in creation, right? And remember, an analogical predication requires a likeness between the predicate and the thing we're predicating it of, right? So if this doesn't exist, then we can't complete this analogical predication. So Jake can't engage in analogical predication, and he's obviously not going to engage in univocal predication. So that only leads him to be able to use equivocal predication, which means that Jake saying Allah is most merciful is going to be the same as me saying the tree has bark and the dog barks. They mean nothing alike each other. So Jake can't even describe what God is, which is going to be a really big problem. And I'm surprised that J. Dyer didn't try to press him more on this. So number one, the argument still goes through anyway. And number two, nominalism is just false, even as he uses it as a defense of this argument.
Okay guys, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We're going to be responding to this video. So here is a guy, he's a Thomist. He's talking about what's it called, predication. Okay, so this guy is trying to refute brother Jake, the Muslim physician, okay, like claiming that his position is equivocal. Okay, he's saying it's equivocal, and the problem with this statement is that he thinks he can escape by appealing to an analogical understanding. But I'm going to show in this video that this analogical meaning that he's talking about is not actually clear as he thinks. It can either be equivocal as well or univocal. Okay, so in the end, he has already claimed in the video that if it is univocal, you're an anthropomorphist. Me, I'm going to say this guy is an anthropomorphist because he believes it's univocal. There's some likeness, there's some shared meaning. He's appealing to a shared meaning, a likeness, that even though he's calling it analogical, it is not. It is not analogical, it is univocal. And many scholars have pointed this out, that the appeal to an analogical meaning is actually going to either result to equivocity or univocity. So in the end, it doesn't work. Okay, it doesn't work. So now I'm going to show you something here now. Both of them are inconsistent, unlike the Asharis. Both of them are inconsistent, unlike the Asharis. The first one is this guy is going to be univocal. However, brother Jake, even though he's equivocal, is inconsistent. He's inconsistent. That's his problem. So now I'm going to show you something here now. Okay, analogical can be both equivocal or univocal. Equivocal means that the meanings are not shared, and he's right. The meanings are not shared. Univocal means they are shared. The moments that the meanings are shared, we are in the same genus, as he said, and that is anthropomorphism. When it is equivocal, they have two different ontologies, and there's no shared meaning. That is equivocal. He's accusing Jake of equivocity. However, he is using analogical to sneak in his own university, which is anthropomorphic. So analogical is not a distinction. Many people have pointed this out. That actually works. If you're either going to be a univocal person or equivocal. It doesn't work, okay? So you're either mushabbiha, mujassima, or you're jahmi in the end. So this Thomist guy, for what he said, that if God is merciful and we are merciful, is actually univocal, even though he calls it analogical. You know the distinction he made between a good wine and a good person? That is equivocal. It is equivocal. It's not univocal. We don't mean good in the same sense. Okay? It's equivocal. So he's an anthropomorphist. Now, the problem with Jake's position, the Salafi position, is that they want to affirm two different ontologies, completely different ontologies, yet, so by that definition, two different ontologies, completely different ontology, they are not anthropomorphists on that basis. They have no issue. And since I know that Jake now is a nominalist, he cannot be an anthropomorphist because he doesn't know the meaning of what he's saying. So when he says God is merciful, he doesn't actually know the meaning. He doesn't know the meaning. Now the problem with the Salafi position is that they are inconsistent and they confuse everybody. They say they know the meaning and they cannot tell us the meaning. That is the charge now. If you want to be equivocal, just go to the Asharis. The Asharis will explain how you can, even though the meanings are completely different, we can still meaningfully talk about God. Watch the last video that I just made about how even though we do tafwid al-ma'na, we can still talk about God's sifat and attributes meaningfully. That is how we do it. We don't shy away from maintaining God's ontological difference from us, yet we can meaningfully talk about God. Just like determinism and libertarian free will, we affirm determinism, and people will think that you cannot be free anymore then, but we are compatibilists. The same way, the attributes can be equivocal, and yet we can meaningfully talk about God. Watch my last video. I gave a very brilliant analogy. 2 examples there. And you should watch it, guys. So anyway, that's the end of this video. Jake is appealing to an equivocal position, but he's confusing us, just like all the other Salafis too. They are confusing us by saying that, that they know the meaning after they've already made the ontological divide. This guy, the Thomist guy, his position is problematic. He's appealing to an analogical meaning. That analogical meaning is either going to be univocal or equivocal. You cannot. Even St. Thomas Aquinas, people have interpreted him in 2 ways. His analogical predication, some people have said, is univocal, and some people have said is equivocal. You cannot be analogical that nobody knows what you're talking about. So anyway, so that's the end of the video. What do you guys think about this in the comment section? See you guys later. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.